the undisputed king of screeching U-turns, Sir Keir Starmer, has excelled himself once again today. His latest flip-flop, rowing back on his public comments that mass immigration risks turning Britain into an island of strangers.
We risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth, you're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo.
Yes, with Reform UK now surging in the opinion polls, Prime Minister Keir Starmer spoke out against the changing face of Britain just last month. But the act did not last long, with Keir Starmer today admitting that, and I quote, he deeply regrets his comments. By way of apology, he explains he failed to read the speech properly, as it came just hours after an alleged arson attack on his family home. Can this Prime Minister make his mind up about anything at all, I ask? U-turns seem to be one of the only reliable elements of his political DNA. First on the wildly unpopular cuts to winter fuel payments, and then just today, another embarrassing climb down on welfare cuts in the wake of a huge backbench rebellion. Keir Starmer seems to have completely lost control of his own party less than less than a year after coming into public office. But there's a crucial difference with Keir Starmer's change of heart on his Island of Strangers speech, and it is this. It seems to be the one recent area of government policy that the majority of Brits actually agreed with Keir Starmer on, and now he's turned his back on those voters. A recent Ipsos Mori poll found that 67% of Brits, two-thirds of the country, think that immigration is too high. Evidently, the Prime Minister now disagrees. But did the Prime Minister ever truly believe what he was saying in the first place? Because, Sir Keir, I think you were right. Both me and millions of voters across the country, we were on your side. A YouGov poll found that most people in this country agreed with the sentiment of his Island of Strangers speech. More than half of all voters thought what he was saying made complete sense. Mass immigration does not make sense economically. It is not making us richer. It's not making us more prosperous. And it's not making us safer, as we saw recently with that shocking story that foreign nationals are responsible for a quarter of all rapes and sexual assaults in this country. And mass immigration, it appears, is now underpinning this political revolt that is sweeping through British politics. The British people have watched record numbers of small boat crossings this year, coupled with a long-awaited admission that the rape gang crisis was covered up for decades. They can't get a GP appointment, their children are sent to increasingly divided schools, and the safety of their streets has become a very real and constant concern. Voters across the country thought, Keir Starmer, that you finally understood what they are worried about. But from what you said today, they appear to have been misled once again. Labour talks the talk, but doesn't walk the walk. As ever, let me know your views at gbnews.com/your say. And of course, you can reach us on X at gbnews. Well, I'm joined now to discuss all of this by Reform Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkins. Andrea, this U-turn, what is it telling us about Keir Starmer, his leadership, and indeed the Labour Party?
I think it tells us that he's been lying, actually, Matt, because, look, he's a lawyer. He's used to reading speeches. He's used to reading tons of papers. And so clearly his speechwriters put this speech together to stop voters coming across to reform from the Labour Party, to appeal to them, to stop them hemorrhaging votes. But look, I was in Parliament with him from 2015, and he is a globalist, Matt. We all know it. He doesn't believe in sovereignty, the nation state. When I was in Parliament with him, he tried every trick in the book, working with the Speaker, Bercow, to try and stop Brexit. And look how, as soon as he's got in power, is pushed for closer alignment. And so he's backtracked because, quite frankly, he doesn't believe in controlling illegal migration or migration full stop.
Yeah, well, I certainly agree with you on that point. One of the things that I find absolutely remarkable in what he said today is here we have a Prime Minister in charge of the country basically saying he doesn't know what was in his speech. He wasn't sure what he was reading out. He was distracted by other events. There's a question actually here about leadership and judgment, isn't there? It isn't just about the immigration stuff. We know the Labour Party doesn't believe in cutting immigration. We know the Labour Party constantly gaslights and misleads. But there's something deeper here with Keir Starmer about judgment and about leadership.
I agree with you. But what I also think it is on top of that is, if you remember during the election, I think he said whatever was necessary to try and win, and he conned the voters, Matt. I mean, look how all the Labour literature had the Union flag on there. And is a globalist. That's not him. He'd want the EU flag on there. And now he's in power. I think he's trying to appeal to voters, but that's not his true self. So he's got this internal wrangling, and this is why he's messing up. And I don't think he's ever had the right judgment. I mean, even when he was a backbench MP, I can't think of one time when I've ever thought that he's got the right judgment and is in tune with the people.
While we've got you, Andrea Jenkins, can I just ask as well, we've had some bombshell polling this week from YouGov and Ipsos Mori, which suggests that Reform are on 34% of the national vote and are set to emerge as the largest party at the next general election. But one of the interesting stats in all of that is that most of Reform seats are coming from the Labour Party in areas like the Red Wall, Wales, northeast of England. I mean, there is something going on in those kinds of areas, and I know you know them well, whereby lots of people are now abandoning not just the Tories, who are sort of nowhere to be seen, but they're now leaving Keir Starmer and Labour and going direct to Reform. What do you think is going on there?
I mean, I think, you're a great pollster, you study this better than I do, but my instinct is, like Thatcher got in on a big majority. She appealed to traditional Labour voters, didn't she? And the traditional Conservatives, not the wokey Blairite Liberal Conservatives. Now, she did that with the country, putting your country first, your community, and having strong armed forces, a bit like what Reform's doing. We've got a war on woke and on common sense. It's about being frugal with taxpayers' money, just like Thatcher was. She said about that household income, controlling that. We've got Doge to be frugal with taxpayers' money. And then it's about strong policing. I think the public, whichever, whether you're Labour, Conservative or Reform voters, they are sick of this two-tier justice system, let's face it, which Keir Starmer has been a major part of right since he's got into power. So I think that there's key elements. People want to feel safe in their homes. They want their families to be looked after, good schools, freedom of speech, and also strong armed forces. I think that's what people want.
Thank you, Andrew Jenkins. We will be talking about two-tier justice later on in the show, but thank you for joining us this evening. With me now to continue this discussion and debate about Keir Starmer is my panel political commentator Alice Grant and former Labour candidate Kevin Craig. Kevin, obviously on the left of politics, it is another awkward moment for those who have been trying to rally around the Prime Minister. There's just something, the wheels are coming off the track, aren't they? This is the third big U-turn, Keir Starmer's leadership, not even been in office for a year. Labour's already down on 25% of the national vote. What on earth's going on?
Well, polling year 1 of 5, so there's a long way to go. And I remember a time when the SDP were going to be the next force in British politics, and they sunk without trace. So I think it's too early to draw conclusions. I've never heard, I think Dame Andrea, was it her when she was in the cabinet, stuck the middle finger up to the media? She's going into number 10, and she was part of the Tory government that ruined this country. So as context, because if I hear all this stuff about Labour, I have to respond to it. On Keir Starmer, yes, let's be honest, it hasn't been a great week for the government.
Understatement of the century, Kevin.
Well, see, but listen, Matt, you're a nice guy socially, but you want Labour to fail, and I get that, right? But Keir Starmer, on this issue, has had to listen to his backbenchers, and he's learnt some lessons. I would remind a lot of colleagues in the Parliamentary Labour Party that the reason that we are in government is that the British people trusted us with their money, and they trusted us to take good decisions, and they trusted us not to be divided and row amongst ourselves.
Well,
right?
Let's also, was it also the case that Labour was just simply not the Tories, and so people rallied around and we had that loveless landslide? But just briefly before we turn to Alice Grant, one of the issues as well here is on the polling. Actually, what Keir Starmer said in that speech, the Island of Strangers speech, is supported by more than half the country. So here's an issue where he seems to finally, I never thought I'd say this, but Keir Starmer finally being in touch with the country, And it turns out that's the issue, that he says, well, actually, I don't agree with anything I said. I'm going to go back this way.
Well, look, on the speech, I would say, at the time, that had gone away. I don't know why that's been reopened again. Labour wants to get immigration down and has been removing more people than in recent years the Tories got anywhere near.
Allowing
Labour
more people to stay
wants to tackle immigration because they know that the working class does not benefit from uncontrolled immigration.
Alice Grant.
The speech initially resonated with people precisely because it addresses that sentiment which so many of us feel, that we are divided more than ever. We cannot recognise community in nearby. There is no sense of unity in our country. The fact that he has made a U-turn is precisely what is in question here. That shows that he never believed initially what he was saying, and that is the issue, that he is the man, and as Andrea Jenkins told us, he's illustrated many times that he goes back on his word. He was the one championing a second referendum after the Brexit vote. He will say whatever he can to appeal to voters here, and he knows that the Labour Party is in a crisis. He's lost control. It's a disaster.
Kevin,
it's not a disaster.
I agree.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad if you look at the polling. But do you believe the rumours in Westminster this week that some of Keir Starmer's advisors are going to have to go, if not actually Starmer himself, within a year or two?
No, hang on a minute, right? Listen, a year ago, Keir Starmer put together a Labour Party that believes in this country and its history and its values on the centre-left of politics, and people were up for it. Now, they made really simple promises.
It's about as popular as Meghan Markle in
Now,
this
you
country.
only interrupt me more because I'm on the left of you. Physically and politically.
But you know
right?
the numbers.
No.
You know the numbers.
But the polling, it's actually this week, 7 out of 10 people who voted for Labour in 2024 said they do so again. That's up from 60% last week.
Only 16% say they like the government. 16%. I mean, he's about as popular in this country as Meghan Markle.
Well, it's early days, and great things have been happening, which we will get back to talking to after this, on the NHS, on trade agreements, on defence. Look, I'm not saying to you both this has been a fantastic week for party management. I prefer prime ministers who listen to when they need to. We need more of that in politics.
Alice Grant, all of this is just a massive opportunity for Nigel Farage and reform in those Labour heartlands, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing, Kevin. We are seeing the rise, the meteoric rise of a party here, which is capitalising on the fact that there is no voice for the working class in Britain right now. There is no one standing up for their interests, and that has been the case for decades. The vote for Brexit was precisely that. It was a protest saying, we are sick of not being listened to by our leaders. Keir Starmer is the same as he was back then. He has never changed. He's going to say whatever he can in order to try to appeal surface level with voters. But in reality, I think it's time for a radical shift. And, well, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Well, indeed, we are certainly seeing radical things taking place in the polls. And, of course, some of us will speak up for forgotten Britain as loudly as we can.